Just Drink the Juice Kid, a Marvel fanfiction written on AO3 by Stark2Ash. The link for this fanfiction will be in the description box below, so I encourage you all to go check it out. No, Mrs. Stark, I'm fine, I promise. Tony rolls his eyes, even though he has his back to Peter. The kid has been following him ever since they left the lab. Tony in search of tissues, and Peter in search of a reason his mentor shouldn't wrap him up in a blanket and spoon feed him soup. Peter, if you say that one more time, I'm gonna call Aunt May and have her come get you. The look Peter gives him is, there's no other word for it, pathetic. His nose is red from obvious attempts to clear his sinuses, and, judging by the 2 seconds Tony was able to put a hand on his forehead before Peter ducked out of his touch, he would say that Peter is just shy of a fever. The kid chooses to fight a losing battle, even though he's been rattling on for 3 minutes and Tony still hasn't budged. I can't even get sick. We tested it, remember? There was that whole thing about healing factor, and Dr. Banner even took some of my blood to mix it with it and see how resistant it was to infection. You agreed, I was there. Dr. Banner knows when to stop before he creates a mutant-resistant supervirus. He hands Peter a box of tissues from a side table and makes sure to note that Banner isn't creating any mutant-resistant supervirus. He loves the guy, but he doesn't exactly have a stellar track record in that area. Peter stalks into the kitchen, and Tony follows, trying to hide a smile as the kid squares his shoulders. I'm completely healthy, and I haven't sneezed in months. He slides into one of the kitchen bar stools. Tony walks around and opens the fridge. You sneezed 4 times in the elevator today, Peter? He's shuffling through cartons and food, but he can still feel Peter glare at the ceiling. She's lying, Mrs. Stark. Friday didn't see a sneeze cuts him off just as he finishes his sentence. Tony just turns around and looks at him. His cheeks are still flushed, and the sleeves of his shirt are bunched up around his elbows. Tony's had enough rough nights to know that the cool countertop feels heavenly against bare skin. I swear I'm not sick. It's probably just a cold that's been going around Midtown. You know how schools are? Tony set a glass of orange juice on the counter in front of him. Then he walks through to rummage through the medicine cabinet. And Ned got it, and maybe he gave it to me, but he's totally fine, and so am I, so you don't have to cancel dinner just because I sneezed a couple times. You've been running yourself absolutely ragged all this week, kid. Peter opens his mouth to protest, but Tony stops him with a look and a small cup of medicine. Don't even try to deny it. I had a call with May a few days ago, 3 decathlon practices, that volunteer work on Tuesday, along with at least 12 hours of other extracurriculars. And I know you're still behind on that report for your history class. It's not behind, and I just have finished reading a few papers and then write like 10 more pages. Peter's eyebrows went further together, and he made a horrible wet sniffling sound. How do you know about the report? Karen told me. Half truth, half lie, really. He ignores Peter staring daggers at his backpack, where a suit is hidden. The kid didn't need to know that when he was watching Spider-Man suit footage with a stupid grin on his face and listening to Peter ramble about classes and what to get Aunt May for her birthday. Pepper had already pointed out to him how attached he was, and thank you very much. And May's present could always be later discussion. Anyway, you're probably just run down. You need some rest so your body can go back to proper fighting shape. The kid makes a noise of disgust, which he immediately dissolves into a hacking cough. Tony leans over the sink and places his hands on the counter, pushing the juice closer towards Peter. Pete, he says. The kid slumps down onto his stool. The dinner was made for us, and they're just reservations. I can make them again once you're feeling better. But it's the best Italian place in the entire city, Peter groans, and, finally, it seems like he'd given up the ruse that fell apart the second he stepped into Tony's sight. Another night, kid. They do take out, Peter says hopefully, and Tony looks pointedly at the untouched orange juice in his hand. You know just as well as I do that being sick screws with your sense of taste. When your nose is all stuffy, the swelling and the gunk blocks out the passage to the olfactory receptors and over 74% of taste is smell. I know, Peter sighs. I was just really looking forward to tonight, you know? I've been so busy, and I've been in like 10 different countries this month, and you said you really wanted to celebrate that one award I got, the Outstanding Award for Young Scholars in Science and Engineering. Peter looks up at him like he's surprised that Tony remembered. Yeah, that, but I was just so excited to finally chill and eat a lot of pasta. Well, we can still do that if you take all your medicine. Tony shoves a small cup towards Peter, who sighs and tips it into his mouth, with a grimace. But let's do it on the couch in front of a movie instead. I haven't seen The Phantom Menace in a while. He fights to keep a straight face, but the corner of his mouth quirks upwards anyway. Actually, Mrs. Stark, the world building in the prequels comes from the movie. You have the introduction of major characters, the depiction of events that really happen and their actions in further moving forwards. Even the original trilogy, some of the best visual effects seen in movies at that time. Peter slides to the stool and makes his way towards the couch, juice forgotten on the counter. Tony picks it up and follows him. And people think it's a bad movie because it focuses on political events and diplomatic tension rather than fight scenes, even though it has some of the best fight scenes in all the movies. He slides onto the couch, trying to clear his throat with a series of coughs that don't sound particularly painless. So I'll have Friday pull it up. Tony hands him the juice and a pack of tissues. Peter rolls his eyes. Absolutely not. The opening scroll of Revenge of the Sith is just appearing when Peter leans over his shoulder. Do you have any ice cream, Mr. Stark? Tony doesn't even take his eyes off the screen. Dairy only makes cold worse. He's seen the movie enough to have every line memorized, but if he looks at Peter, he'll have to fight every instinct telling him to go fetch a fresh pint and spoon to make the kid happy. Peter sniffs again, and Tony feels the couch cushions shake as the kid holds back another sneeze. How do you even know this stuff? Colonel Rolls told me you've got no regard for your personal safety. Really will say anything to make you feel bad about the times that was all true. I've turned a new leaf. I'm responsible now. This is me being responsible. Peter leans further into the side and Tony ruffles his hair with his free hand. When was the last time you ate a vegetable? He's pretty sure he can hear Peter's groan be heard from miles around.